CNN's Dana Bash, our chief political correspondent, Andrew McCabe, the former FBI deputy director, Ellie Honig, senior legal analyst, political commentator Alice Stewart, and David Axelrod, CNN's senior political commentator. We've got it all covered for you. Good evening to one and all. Dan, I'm going to start with you to put this into perspective for us. Cassidy Hutchinson, hearing how Trump lunged at the Secret Service because the agent refused to take him to the Capitol after his speech on January 6th, the portrait of violence and rage she painted, it was absolutely devastating testimony. She painted a picture of a president out of control.
She definitely did. That particular story was, as you just described it, it was a president out of control. It was secondhand information, and she admitted that. And as you said in the intro, that is being disputed by the people she says told her the story, and they say that they would say so under oath. That is because that was so dramatic. It's understandably one that we are remembering and talking a lot about. However, there is so much that she testified to, Don, today that she witnessed firsthand. Conversations that she had, that she was involved in, like the one you were just talking about with the then White House counsel, Pat Cipollone, very worried about breaking a number of laws. I mean, in that case, it was because the president wanted to physically go to the Capitol. But there were, again, a lot of primary conversations that she said that she had testifying under oath that are incredibly alarming and potentially criminal.
And we're waiting to see more or hear more about Arnado and those who are disputing what she said. But again, she was under oath, and the rest is yet to come. Andrew McCabe, in an April interview with the Washington Post, Trump admitted that he wanted to go to the Capitol with his supporters, saying, and I quote here, "Secret Service said I couldn't go. I would have gone there in a minute." Or he's already admitted the Secret Service kept him from going there, correct?
Yeah, correct, Don. I mean, look, we now know from this testimony, it's not just that we know that Trump wanted to go, and we know that almost everyone around him knew he wanted to go. On January 2nd, Rudy Giuliani told Cassidy Hutchinson that Trump wanted to go. Cipollone told Cassidy Hutchinson on January 3rd, I believe, that Trump wanted to go. Kevin McCarthy called Cassidy Hutchinson on the 6th and argued with her about, you told me he wouldn't come. So clearly that had been a topic between the two of them. And then on the 6th, this entire coterie of senior officials, people as senior as the White House counsel himself, is relying on this 24-year-old staffer to prevent the President of the United States from accompanying an armed mob assault on the Capitol. It's unbelievable to me that of this entire group of people, this entire thing came down to Cassidy Hutchinson's ability to stop the president. I mean, it's insane.
And what about his vice president, Dana? How his total disregard for the VP's safety? I mean, Hutchinson testified that she heard Meadows tell Cipollone Trump didn't care about paying Mike Pence those chants that were happening there, that he thought Pence deserved it. There was no remorse, no concern.
And that's an example of what I was referring to about these actual conversations that she had with these incredibly senior people who were part of this drama. And in this case, it was more of a nightmare when you think about the President of the United States making incredibly clear to his chief of staff, to his White House counsel, that he just didn't care. He was so angry and aggravated about the fact that Mike Pence wouldn't break the law for him, that when it came to the actual safety of Mike Pence, he said these things, or at least made it clear to the people that Cassidy Hutchinson was talking about. Again, we've gotten these accounts sort of more in and around these events. This is the closest we have gotten. Everybody has wanted to know what was the president doing at that time in those moments. And we've had people describing it kind of from the outer circle. She was in the innermost circle.
Yeah. And look, if you take, I felt like I was watching a movie, right? I was like, is this Goodfellas? Like, what the hell is going on here? Like, listening to this. But even if you just take one of these, right? There were multiple things that we learned, even if you take one of them, let's just say, okay, they're disputing what happened, supposedly happened in the Beast or in the SUV or whatever. Okay, fine. Even without that, it's still frightening, Andrew, especially knowing that there were armed people there. And at one point, the committee played police radio audio talking about these armed Trump supporters. Here's part of it.
Number one, make sure BPD knows they have an elevated threat in the trees outside of Constitution Avenue. Look for the Don't Tread on Me flag, American flag face mask, cowboy boots, weapon on the right side hip.
I got 3 men walking down the street and Petit was carrying AR-15, copy of 14th at Independence.
So we have been hearing from Trump allies, Trump supporters, conservative media. No, nobody was armed. They didn't arm. The flagpoles weren't. They didn't have guns. Yeah, they had guns. When I interviewed the Capitol Police, right, and the D.C. Metropolitan Police Officer Michael Fanone and others, they said, yeah, definitely people were armed. Now there's absolute proof that people were armed. The entire situation was a tinderbox, Andrew.
Undeniable proof, Don. And I can tell you, as a law enforcement officer, spent many hours of my life sitting in cars, listening to radio traffic, to hear that Metropolitan Police Department radio traffic, which is essentially like the results of surveillance, right? Here's what we're seeing on the ground. This is not like anti-Trump political opponents or something. This is just law enforcement officers reporting what they're seeing, and they are seeing people with AR-15s showing up at a rally where the president is about to speak. I mean, this is it was absolutely stunning and terrifying to me to hear that, and then to understand that, knowing that that's what composed this crowd, the president of the United States demand that the magnetometers be removed, that these people be embraced, and then he openly exhorted them, pushed them, encouraged them to assault the Capitol. I mean, that to me, in a day of blockbusters, that was the most significant revelation that we heard today. It was the president's knowledge that the crowd is armed and essentially sent them to the Capitol for that purpose.
It was a violence for me, Dana. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, not just sent them, but according to Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony, made it, not surprisingly, about him. They're not going to hurt me. And yeah, he was the president and he was used to the Secret Service being around him to protect him, but a total disregard for the notion of people with arms and people who were completely fired up and angry because he got them to that point. It was all about him. And I mean, what Andy is suggesting is 10 steps further, I think, which is, yeah, of course he was worried about that or focused on that because he got the result that he wanted. And maybe he even wanted to be there. He was in such a state of mind and such a rage about the fact that he was about to be certified the loser, not the president in a second term, that he actually wanted to be with these people who he was told were armed and were extremely angry and headed towards the Capitol.
Yeah. Well, he said he wanted to be there. He said, I've been there in a second. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrew.